So we're the Earthship village ecologies are villages of these Earthship buildings that we build. And just to take a step back and define an Earthship building, what it is, I mean, there are 6 things that must be addressed by every city and by every country, whether it's involved in the economy or not. These things are what every country and city is dealing with, and they are energy, of course, shelter, comfortable shelter, which involves heating and cooling, water. They say the future world wars are going to be fought over water, sewage being treated, dealt with somehow, food, which you are all about, and garbage. Garbage. So we're dealing with each one of those issues all in one home, one method of living. And I don't think that any architecture I don't think a building should be built that doesn't address those things. The architects are not doing that, which is why we have invented this word biotecture. Partly because of that, partly because New Mexico wouldn't let me use the word architect. I was a disgrace to the architectural community. So I invented a new word, whatever. If things don't go right, just invent something else. The government does it. Why don't we? So we have this word biotecture, and that's what it is. It's every building addressing all of those issues, so you have to think in layers. You can't just think, build a shelter and then bring in a nuclear power plant and a water system and infrastructure, and the shelter can just be as crazy and wild as you want it to be. No, it can't be that way anymore. It is another thing about what we're doing is decentralization, and people will argue for and against that, and I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm saying it's one of the ways that can actually influence the other ways, really. But an argument for decentralization, just as an overall look, is if a municipality, like a town, or a city gathers up a bunch of tax money and say they build a local coal-fired power plant or a local sewage treatment plant. Just look at that. It takes a few years to tax the people and get the money. Then it takes a couple of years to design the thing with the latest technology available. And then it takes several years to build it. And all of this is a lot of money, and then of course the infrastructure to take sewage to it or to bring power from it, that's a whole huge thing. So if you spend $80 million on some coal-fired power plant with the latest technology that there is available, you as a municipality have put yourself into using that thing for 50 years. You're not gonna try something new the next week because you just invested 10 years and $80 million. So you have been locked into an increment of evolution of 50 years. And that's where we're at with centralized utilities and centralized lots of things. We can't evolve because it's impossible to evolve unless we're going to be on this planet for another 50 million years, which we're not. We're seeing to that pretty quick. But we have to decrease our increments of evolution to that, like bacteria, and they can evolve as fast as we can come up with antibodies. They're evolving instantly. We as people, humans, have locked ourselves into 50-year increments of evolution on almost every issue, and are wondering why we can't evolve fast enough for a changing planet. That's what's going on. And so putting ourselves into we're just exiting from that situation, and we're taking a method of living and a method of building buildings that actually addresses all of the issues that people need to live, to sustain life, and then trying to make that available to people. We try to do it on a conventional level. We have to, I have done a lot of, if you've seen much of our work, these are bottle bricks from a project in Negril, Jamaica. Negril is a tourist town. People go there to get drunk, and be on vacation. So there's a lot of Sky vodka bottles. And so we went to the dump and got people making bottle bricks. We actually created a little business there. And they cut the necks off the bottles and duct tape them together and make these bricks out of bottles. And we left, there were 6 or 7 people employed there at the dump making bottle bricks from the product that was being disposed of by the resorts. And otherwise they were just mountains of bottles. That's just the concept. It's not saying that everybody has to build out of bottles. It's just saying that in Negril, Jamaica, you may as well. They last forever. They're beautiful. And people are producing them. They're manufacturing them, as they go there. And so we advocate, I like blue, so we advocate Sky Vodka as the drink of choice. If tequila came in a blue bottle, I'd probably be soused right now. But so we make these bottle bricks, and they're going into the buildings, and we do, any place where across the planet where that can be used, we use it. A lot of people think that, well, an Earthship is a tire building because most of them are built out of tires. Tires are, I have pictures of mountains of tires that dwarf people and machinery like that in California. Tires are produced. If you came here from another planet, you would think, you'd see trees and you'd see mountains of tires, and you'd, think that both of these things grew here. Well, in fact, they do. Just because one of them goes through the mind of man, it still grows here. So the tires are produced here, and so we looked around and saw lots of them. And yeah, we beat dirt into them. They make a massive wall. Mass by physics stores temperature, so we make a lot of the buildings out of tires. But it doesn't really matter where you're at or what you've got. The thing is using what's around you. And that's why we use these materials. We use tires, cans, cardboard, bottles. We've even started recently going to the dump, and every dump has a pile of, they segregate stuff out, and they have the pile of appliances, washing machines and refrigerators and ranges. Nice metal and stuff, just going to be crushed or whatever. So we go with a solar trailer and batteries and an inverter so that we can power electric snippers. We stab a hole in the side of the washing machine, run the electric snippers across it, around it, and take the panel off. As a matter of fact, we were at the dump with the crew and everything, and some couple came in their pickup truck and threw out an avocado-colored washing machine and dryer, beautiful. And by the time they hit the ground, we had just gobbled them up, for parts and pieces, and they were like in shock, But we harvest these panels, they're about this big, and they're baked on enamel, and we use them for roofing. And the money goes to labor. It doesn't cost that much less, but the money goes to labor rather than shipping some metal roof product from afar. So it's the thing of consuming garbage it's just a concept. It's not that sustainable buildings have to be made out of tires. Too many people think that, they think that's what we are going to advocate. Well, yeah, I'm going to advocate it because every place on the planet I have been has tires. Every place. Bolivia. I built an Earthship at 14,000 feet in Bolivia. And they had plenty of tires and cans and bottles. They at first in Bolivia thought that we were just Americans coming down here to give them our garbage. And the first day we had a big pile of tires there, and they came with machine guns and were shooting into the tire pile. And then, because they were belligerent at what we were doing, that Americans were coming down here with garbage for housing for them. And so we had one of our books, our first books in Spanish, and gave it to them, and it told the reasons, it told the rationale. I forget what it said. I wrote it a long time ago, but apparently it did the trick, because the next day they came back with a truckload of tires. And then the emerging president, I don't know if he ever made it or not, ran a brewery. So he shows up with a bunch of people and truckloads of cans, and actually took us to the brewery for lunch, and we never made it back to work. But so it's using what's around you. I don't care what it is. You know, it doesn't really matter what it is. Another one on that is we were in Norway, and we were trying to make warm space in this 9-story agricultural grain silo that was just it's a huge structure, but very good concrete structure, but it was worthless to live in, you know, and so we were trying to make warm spaces in it, and we ended up just taking little carts and going around to the local grocery stores that were all within 2 or 3 blocks away, and all of them had those balers that you put the cardboard boxes in, and they baled them all up, and they were paying to have them hauled away. So we got the balers, and they got the bales, and got a bunch of them, and took a chainsaw and zipped them all into nice little 4-foot long or 3-foot long by 2 by 2 bricks, and we made a room inside of this 9-story concrete grain silo, and those things have an R factor of like 40. They're really good. And we pinned them all together and made the room really, really tight. And we took the faculty and the funders of the school, it was an architectural school, in this room. The body heat of 16 people, we had a big thermometer on the wall, the body heat of 16 people upped the temperature in that room 10 degrees. I mean, they sat there and watched it happen. That's just an illustration that not only can do this with garbage, what we call garbage, but if you employ the proper principles of mass and insulation and solar gain and whatever, that even in a country like Norway where there's almost no sun, the heating requirement can be lowered to the point where body heat of people can heat it. And that's just another whole concept there, that a couple of laptops could have heated that room. When you lower your need level, then all of a sudden all kinds of things become available. In other words, when there's a giant need for heat because of crazy, stupid architecture, which is why I'm not an architect, when there's a giant need for heat, you need a nuclear power plant. You can't even think of heating with I wouldn't even mention heating with a laptop. I mean, you would definitely get laughed out of a building permit office for that one. And not even laughed at, just go away. But when you radically reduce your need, all of a sudden, teeny little forms of heat become viable. And so that thought works with everything. It works with water, it works with energy, it works with sewage. Humans, I think, are the only creatures that gather up their sewage into all one place. So rather than have a teeny little problem here, you got this giant problem. And what they do in addition is, the worst sewage you got is your toilet. Well, they mix the bathtub and everything else with that just to make it more huge, because the bathtub would be really easy to deal with. But the toilet's a little more difficult. But then they run the storm drains in with that, and they have a giant amount of sewage that is all the equivalent of human feces. When they could run the storm drains somewhere else and save it, use it, whatever,